Who exactly are the children of Godzilla, the king of the monsters? Over many decades, Godzilla has been through several different iterations, though he is not the only member of his species in most of the expanded material. While he's often one of the only Gojira, it's common for him to have relatives. And today, my friends, we'll be talking about Godzilla's children. So come along with us, Heralds of the Titans, and let's talk about the two creatures that Godzilla has adopted, and how these other mini Godzillas came to be known as his sons. Let's begin with his first son, initially known as Manila, who first appeared in the 1967 Toho film, The Son of Godzilla. The first appearance of Manila's egg is on Solgol Island, situated deep in the South Pacific, and this egg was able to send out a distress signal across the planet that only one creature would recognize. These pulsating energy fields were picked up by Godzilla, and he immediately set off for the island. When Godzilla arrived, he found three deadly monsters known as the Kamacuras attempting to crack open and attack both the egg and the young Gojira within, but Godzilla stopped them. The Kamacuras were quickly overpowered, and while the egg was destroyed, the infant inside was actually still alive, and now was face to face with the only remaining member of his species. And even though Manila was not Godzilla's son by blood, he was now. For years, Manila would travel by the side of Godzilla. Manila was even able to save his father's life against the dreaded Kumonga, and even joined the fight against King Ghidorah alongside other monsters, showing off his true heritage as a proper Gojira. In the Showa interpretation, Manila is much friendlier towards humans than just about any other monster is, and is one of the most peaceful members of all of the kaiju. This doesn't mean he is afraid of a fight though, only that he is generally much kinder when he is in a situation where he can meet and interact with humans, and he prefers not to fight, unlike Godzilla. He is also able to entertain himself and to attempt to make games, showing a level of recreational enjoyment and intelligence that few other monsters have. While this character is consistent, he is not the only child that Godzilla would adopt though. It's important to note that these two children of Godzilla exist in different iterations, and while they're the same character, they're not necessarily siblings. Godzilla's second son has gone by several names, and originates from the Heisei era. His first name is of course Baby Godzilla, and then adopting the moniker of Godzilla Jr. Godzilla Jr. first appeared all the way back in 1993, that film being Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, and his origins are quite similar to that of Manila, with the character being inspired by Manila but taken more seriously. Here, an expedition of explorers made landfall and came into contact with one of the Rodan. There, they discovered that they were guarding a massive unhatched egg. The initial belief was that this egg belonged to a member of Rodan's species, but unlike Rodan, it was generating waves of nuclear energy. This troubled the humans. This acted as something as a beacon for Godzilla, who was immediately attracted to the pulsating egg, but Rodan immediately became protective of his son. When Godzilla made landfall, the expedition team witnessed the violent encounter between the two of them, where Rodan was presumed to have been killed by Godzilla. But in the battle, the scientists were able to get a hold of the egg. They stole it from the nest and carted it back to Japan while Godzilla and Rodan were occupied with fighting one another, with the Japanese scientists believing that this was an egg of the Rodan species. When it hatched though, they discovered they were mistaken, and the egg belonged to a Gojira. While this theory was never confirmed in the Toho films, it is suggested that this may have been what is known as a parasite egg. This is something that exists in both the monster world as well as in our real world. A parasite egg is an imposter, and in this case, one of the Gojira would have planted this egg among many Rodan eggs, ensuring that a capable monster like Rodan would become highly protective and give their life to save the egg, likely being put there by a dying Gojira. Although of course, this is simply a theory. Following this though, Rodan would be revived from his encounter with Godzilla, emerging again as Fire Rodan, as he set off to find the hatchling from the missing egg. When Rodan arrived in Japan, he was brought face to face with Mechagodzilla, and although he fought valiantly, Mechagodzilla was eventually able to defeat Rodan, as Rodan then gave his life to empower Godzilla, hoping that Godzilla would now take on the role as protector of Baby Godzilla. Once Mechagodzilla was defeated by a newly empowered Godzilla proper, he found the baby and formally adopted the role as a father. Henceforth, Baby Godzilla became the creature known as Godzilla Jr., and he would roam the earth with his adopted father until the child would be brutally murdered by one of Godzilla's greatest enemies, Destroya. This would not be the ultimate end of Godzilla Jr. though, even though canonically he was killed. The young Gojira would be given life yet again after his father went thermonuclear. And although his father Godzilla would pass on, Godzilla Jr. would become a now full adult Godzilla and the new king of the monsters, carrying on both of his father's legacies. In terms of behavior, this version of baby Godzilla is also known for being very playful and docile towards humanity. In fact, several members of G-Force were even able to pioneer a method of communication between themselves and Godzilla Jr., again showing advanced intelligence. This was in part due to Miki Sugura's psychic abilities, which we believe may be manifesting in Gia in the new MonsterVerse films, but we encourage you to check out that video in full. While Manila set the groundwork for the Son of Godzilla storyline, Godzilla Jr. improved upon this idea and had much more prevalence in the later films. But what's important and compelling to remember at the same time is that neither of them are the direct sons of Godzilla. Instead, were eggs abandoned and left behind by mysterious Gojira that we have never seen, with the eggs potentially being thousands of years old. Manila would again come back to prominence in Godzilla Final Wars, with this being the only appearance of a baby Godzilla in the Millennium era. But in no era is Godzilla ever confirmed to be the direct father of any of his adopted sons. And now finally, we have come to Doug of the MonsterVerse. Although it is not confirmed whether or not Doug is directly related to the Gojira, it is believed that he is a very distant cousin of the Titanus Gojira, and it would be highly interesting to see exactly how Godzilla interacts with this Doug. The biggest mystery about the two sons of Godzilla though is where exactly did they come from? Godzilla Jr. was clearly a Rodan imposter egg, and unfortunately it has never been stated by Toho where either of these children come from. What is compelling though is their extremely docile nature towards humanity, showing an interest in them and even wanting to communicate with them, something that is extremely rare for any Gojira, and especially for Godzilla. Godzilla Sons also gives us a much clearer idea of exactly how intelligent Godzilla really is, capable of communication on a level that other kaiju, titans, and monsters seem to be incapable of. It's not that Godzilla can't communicate with humanity, he simply doesn't want to, or could potentially not view them as worthy. Godzilla is truly a king and a battle-hardened warrior, something that quite possibly both of his sons could develop into further along the line. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on Godzilla's sons? Where do you think the two of them actually came from? And are they directly related to Godzilla in any way? This is one of the biggest mysteries in the Godzilla franchise, and has gone many decades without an answer. But anyway, my friends, what are your thoughts on this? And what are your own theories about Godzilla and his offspring? As always, thank you so much for visiting the channel today. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll hope to see you in another video.